Today, we're diving into a letter, one that's nearly 2,000 years old, but it tackles a problem that feels like it could have been ripped from today's headlines. What happens when a community starts tearing itself apart from the inside? Well, we're going to unpack an ancient recipe for unity, right from the 3rd chapter of 1 Corinthians.
And this is the question at the heart of it all. It's that moment when healthy admiration for a leader starts to curdle, turning into rivalry and splitting people into factions. It's a problem that's pretty much timeless, right? And this ancient text gives us a really fascinating way to look at it. So, let's set the scene. We're in ancient Corinth. This place is a major hub. It's bustling, it's sophisticated, and it's super competitive. A new spiritual community has just started up here, but it's already in crisis. Instead of finding unity, they're dealing with all this internal conflict.
And here's the root of the problem. People were literally picking sides, forming these little fan clubs around their favorite leaders. It stopped being about the actual message and became all about these personality cults. The result? As the text says, envy and strife. The whole community was starting to crack right along these lines of loyalty.
Paul, the author, his diagnosis is, well, it's sharp. He basically tells them, look, I couldn't talk to you as spiritually mature people, but as infants. He says they're still on milk, the basic foundational stuff, because their constant fighting proves they just aren't ready for solid food, which is the deeper unifying wisdom. To him, all this infighting is a clear sign of spiritual immaturity.
Now, to fix this, Paul doesn't just yell at them. He does something way more clever. He completely reframes their idea of leadership using 3 powerful pictures. And the first one is simple. It's beautiful, and it brings us right back down to earth. A garden.
This one line changes everything. Paul, who founded the community, says all I did was plant a seed. And Apollos, another big-name teacher, he just watered it. But get this, neither one of them claims credit for the growth itself. They're just workers, each with a different job to do.
You see, the whole thing is a team effort. It's a process with necessary steps. But the actual miracle of growth, that spark of life, well, that comes from a source that's way beyond any human leader. The planter and the waterer are both crucial for sure, but neither of them is the star of the show. So here's the bottom line. If God is the one making everything grow, isn't it kind of ridiculous to argue about which gardener has the best watering can? Paul uses this picture to just deflate all that human ego and get them to refocus. Stop worshiping the servants, he says, and give the glory to the one who actually makes the garden flourish. Okay, so from the garden, Paul shifts gears and moves from agriculture to architecture. He starts describing the community not as a garden, but as a building under construction. And this really raises the stakes for what each person is contributing. Now, every single building needs a solid foundation, right? And on this point, Paul is crystal clear. He says there is only one foundation that can possibly be laid, and it's already been set. That foundation is Jesus Christ. That's the non-negotiable starting point for everything else. So on top of this one foundation, everybody starts building. But here's the catch. You can use different kinds of materials. On the one hand, you've got gold, silver, precious stones, stuff that represents real, lasting, valuable work. But on the other hand, you have wood, hay, and straw. These are the cheap, flimsy materials that represent shoddy, self-serving work, like building things out of pride or division. It might look like a building for a minute, but there's no substance to it. And then Paul introduces this really dramatic moment, a test by fire. He says a day is coming when this fire will reveal the true quality of everyone's work. It's not there to destroy people, but to test what they've built. And all that superficial stuff, the wood, hay, and straw built on ego, it's all going to get burned away in an instant. Only what's genuine, what's real, will survive the flames. So what happens to the person whose work just goes up in smoke? Well, the text says the person themselves will be saved, but just barely, like someone escaping through the flames. They suffer a total loss and get zero reward for all their flammable efforts. It's a pretty serious warning about the need to build with integrity. This brings us to the third, final, and honestly the most mind-blowing picture of them all. Paul takes that building idea and he elevates it to a completely different level, one that radically shifts how they should see themselves as a community. To really get the impact here, you have to remember what a temple was back then. It was a holy building, a specific spot on a map. It was considered the literal house of a god, the center of all worship. It was a place you had to go to if you wanted to be in the presence of the divine. Paul takes this idea that everyone understood, the temple as a physical place, and he just flips it completely on its head. What he's about to say would have been absolutely shocking to his audience. And this is the knockout punch of his whole argument. He asks them, "Don't you get it? Have you forgotten the most important thing? You are the temple. Not some building made of stone and gold, but the community, the people, together. The sacred space where God lives isn't a place you go to, it's what you are. And this just lays bare the ultimate consequence of all their infighting. If the community is God's temple, then splitting it into factions isn't just a petty squabble, it's an act of desecration. It's like walking into a holy place and deliberately defiling it. The stakes just got raised as high as they can possibly go.
So how did these three pictures, the garden, the building, the temple, actually solve the problem? Well, together, they create a complete and total shift in perspective. They yank the focus away from human leaders and put it onto a much, much bigger reality.
So here's the big takeaway. First, your leaders are just gardeners, not gurus. They're servants with different jobs in a project that only God can make grow. Second, everything you do matters. Your actions are the building materials that are going to be tested for quality. And finally, your community isn't some social club you can join or leave. It is a sacred temple. To damage its unity is to do something truly terrible.
And so this ancient letter leaves us with a really personal and pretty challenging question, one that still echoes today. In your own life, in your communities, in your work, are you building with fireproof gold or with flammable straw? What are you building with?